So many times when talking to marketers, dealers, brands, companies, everybody in the new digital world, there's often this debate that arises over either last click attribution or single point attribution. And it's very frustrating. I have no idea on what basis points anybody could ever indicate, particularly in tier 3 auto, that they were a single point attribution. It's a myth. It's a unicorn. It's the Care Bears. It's the Smurfs. It is by far the biggest fallacy in automotive tier 3 marketing. There is no single point attribution models in automotive. It is impossible to tie it back. The consumers are getting data from you. They're getting information from you. They're coming to websites. They're seeing ads. They're seeing television commercials. They're seeing billboard ads. There is zero way to understand the influence of all those in single methods versus let alone the total methodology of what the entire process does, right? I heard of an expression the other day called the contribution attribution or the contribution method. I mean, at the end of the day, really what all brands, companies, agencies need to take into effect is the total amount of spend, the efficiency of that spend as it relates to revenue. For example, take a tier 3 OEM organization and they decide that in any particular market in the United States, they're going to dump another $1 million or $500,000 or whatever for that tier 2 association. So let's just say the Dallas-Fort Worth Chevy Dealers Association, right? And there's X number of them. And the tier 2 puts in X number of dollars. If we look at our data on Location IQ and we watch footfall to those dealerships and they spend $500,000 over a 60-day period and increase the spend that didn't exist before, and the footfall traffic to those Chevy dealers doesn't increase or it nominally increases or goes down, then the dollars were misspent. There's just no other way. $500,000, you don't see more footfall traffic and you don't see additional sales at the tier 3 level, then the dollars were misspent. Anyway, one of the ways to avoid a lot of this is to constantly know that your spend, your advertising dollars, whether it's digital, OTT, social media, et cetera, which happen to be our favorites, particularly OTT, CTV, and social, not so much digital, but is to use custom audience data. So these data models, these personas, these cohorts actually tell you as a brand or a dealership or an agency exactly who you want your message and your ad dollars to be spent on. You're not waiting for the walled gardens to come in and say, this is what we think you should do, because it's blind, it's anonymous. But if you build those audiences on a one-to-one basis around what your wishes are, what your desired outcome is, and you use those custom audience data in these various platforms, you have much more control over a number of things. Your engagement goes up, oftentimes 2 to 3%, or 2 to 3 times rather, The ad spend can go down, or you can reinvest those dollars. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're getting better spend using custom audience data. You also are able at that point to know that that individual was included in an audience that you spent social media dollars on. What happens all of a sudden now if for a car dealer, 5 sales show up in his DMS and they were in that custom audience data? So you get a lot more control over attribution, even though I hate that word, because there's just no last click or single point. But at least you're able to say, hey, the ROI on that spend using custom audience data and attributing it back to true impact, whether it's appointments or sales, is really about the only thing that you can do that's not in an anonymized state. There you have it. I'm sure that I'm going to get blown up on this one. Reach out to me and let me hear what your thoughts are.